Learning English through improvised real-life scenarios offers an active and dynamic approach to language development. Instead of repeating memorized dialogues or practicing predictable routines, learners place themselves inside spontaneous situations that mirror daily life. These situations require quick thinking, natural reactions, and clear communication. Because the scenarios are improvised, each moment becomes an opportunity to expand vocabulary, strengthen listening skills, and build confidence. The unpredictability turns every exchange into a meaningful learning experience, similar to how native speakers handle unexpected events during their day. A typical improvised scenario starts with a simple setting. You may imagine that you walk into a busy market where vendors speak with different accents and customers ask for advice. You must listen carefully, choose appropriate responses, and adapt to the flow of conversation. Improvised scenarios often include background noise, emotional expressions, and small interruptions. These elements reflect the real world and force learners to rely on both comprehension and intuition. Through this approach, you develop the ability to understand English as it is spoken naturally, without the structure of a classroom script. Another important benefit of improvised scenarios is that they encourage creativity. Instead of waiting for a perfect sentence, you learn to express yourself with the language you already know. Over time, this reduces fear of mistakes and increases speaking fluency. For example, if you imagine that you are helping a lost traveler, you must give directions using landmarks, movement verbs, and descriptive phrases. If you imagine that you are attending a workshop, you may need to introduce yourself, request clarification, or offer feedback. Each improvised moment becomes a chance to practice function-based English that matches real communication needs. The next stage of learning through improvised real-life scenarios focuses on interaction, problem-solving, and emotional expression. Real conversations often involve unclear messages, unexpected questions, or rapid shifts in topic. Improvised scenarios help you prepare for these challenges by presenting situations that require flexible thinking. For example, you may imagine that you are working in a customer service role and a visitor arrives with an urgent issue. You must identify the problem, ask follow-up questions, and offer practical solutions. This builds your ability to manage real communication tasks with patience and clarity. Improvised scenarios also strengthen listening comprehension, which is one of the most difficult skills for learners. Because each situation feels realistic, you learn to recognize tone, speed, emphasis, and hesitation. You pay attention not only to words but also to intention. Imagine a colleague who speaks quickly because something important is happening. You must listen for key information, interpret the message, and respond immediately. This type of learning prepares you for real environments where people do not always slow down or repeat themselves. Another valuable aspect is that improvised scenarios reveal your strengths and weaknesses. When a situation feels difficult, you notice which grammar structures need more practice or which vocabulary fields require expansion. When a situation feels comfortable, you recognize your progress. You may imagine negotiating prices at a shop, giving advice to a friend, or asking for help at a train station. Each scenario requires a different set of linguistic tools, and the variety helps you become a more adaptable and independent speaker. The final stage of learning English through improvised real-life scenarios focuses on reflection, long-term growth, and the development of natural fluency. After practicing several scenarios, you take time to review your responses and identify patterns in your communication style. You might notice that you understand instructions clearly but struggle with expressing opinions. You might discover that you use familiar vocabulary with ease but hesitate when describing emotions. Reflection helps you create specific goals and track progress in a meaningful way. As you continue practicing, improvised scenarios gradually become more complex and more realistic. You may imagine yourself attending a business meeting, participating in a community project, or interviewing for a new opportunity. These scenarios require advanced skills such as summarizing key points, expressing agreement, or negotiating compromises. The more you visualize these situations, the more confident you become in handling them in real life. Improvised learning trains both your language ability and your ability to stay calm under pressure. In the final moments of your practice, you imagine a complete day filled with improvised interactions. You greet neighbors, communicate with coworkers, share stories with friends, and solve small problems along the way. Each conversation flows naturally because you have trained your mind to remain flexible, creative, and attentive. You begin to experience English not as a school subject but as a living tool for connection. Through constant exposure to improvised real-life scenarios, you develop the fluency, clarity, and confidence required for real-world communication.